I think I am the first speaker that don't have English as a mother tongue. But I think, and I'm afraid that you will not be very impressive with my country if I speak in Portuguese. Maybe next time. Therefore, please, on the other hand, please overlook my eventual or potential mistakes in your language. I don't intend to assassinate English, but I'll try to do my best to present Brazil as potential for you to invest, okay? First of all, many thanks to the organization of this Congress for inviting me to speak about this challenging topic that is access to Brazilian market. Believe me, even for a Brazilian that has 36 years of experience in pharmaceutical segment, it's not easy to explain political and economic model, regulatory issues, taxes system, labor legislation, and costs related. I have to recycle myself and learn every day. No routines in Brazilian business, I assure you. Anyway, during this short period of time, I'll try to give you a general overview, a balanced and consciously optimistic view about the country, and more specifically about pharmaceutical and orphan drugs in particular. Sorry. Is this button? Oh. These are topics I intend to discuss with you. During many years, Brazil was considered the country of the future. Sometimes seemed this future would never come. Sometimes already a reality. So it's important to put an interrogation mark any tentative to define the right moment for opportunities and moments to come. Risk-take attitude is necessary. Regarding market access, there are, as already mentioned, important measures recently approved for orphan drugs that will be presented later on, really promising. There are good and practical actions that could help new entries to come and to overcome these challenges, not completely, but put startups on right track. Brazilian bureaucracy and costly procedures are a topic apart. First part of my presentation will be about the costly ticket, the second about the opportunities. This is what generally is considered Brazil cost. That is evaluated as high as 20% of GDP in terms of losses, complexities, intricate system rules and taxes, not to mention more than 50 types of taxes and duties. And finally, mentioning that access model for orphan drugs nowadays and probably for medium term will be based on lawsuits. What does this mean? Our constitution, you know, your constitution in America probably has dozen articles, things like that. You know how many articles Brazilian constitution has? 380. Therefore, everything is defined by law. Differently from Anglo-Saxonians and other countries, everything is defined by law. And lawsuits is a system that patients can have access to the drug because our constitution guarantees to all Brazilian citizens the access to drugs. This wasn't a huge debate in past years, but finally, the interpretation of Supreme Court was favorable to patients. But we have a long way in order to have a better system for access. Move to next one. You certainly remember when this cover story about Brazilian potential and economic boom happened a few years ago on The Economist magazine, cover story, probably 2009 or 2010. The country GDP increased at that point in time robust rates. would have two important sports events designated for Brazil. The World Cup, that will happen in less than 2 months. Let's cross fingers that things will be ready there. Olympic Games, that will be in 2016. We had discovered great oil reserves, pre-sal, investment grade for main risk agencies gave us investment grade. Now they are putting our investment grade down. Many companies, including pharmaceuticals, decided to come at this moment. In 2009, I was responsible for Astellas, a Japanese company that is not related to Orphan Drugs, is more to urology and oncology, but other Orphan Drugs comes at that point, decided to come. Just to give you an example, a clear example about this, our pharmaceutical association, Interpharma, during many years had a very stable number of members, 25 members more or less, basically from big pharma, Bristol Myers Squibb, Eli Lilly, Pfizer, and others. Now, from 2009 till now, this number jumped from 25 to 50 members of associated to our pharmaceutical association. Some of them are for orphan drugs. Genzyme, Biomarin, and Shire were already there, but we had Alexion, we have Egerium, we have now NPS that is coming, and Biogen, Amgen was already there. Therefore, they believed on that, and they thought immediately, we are ready to have spectacular results, right? This Jesus Christ live in the Corcovado mountain. What happened? A few years ago, after the previous edition, last year, scenario was completely different. GDP stagnation, inflation came back, social protests, sports events under criticism and risks of fiasco. What happened? With that optimism that brought so many companies and investors to come, from high profits to not very confident, everybody, mainly the economists, gave wrong advice, consultants were wrong. No, not at all. Final result I would emphasize. Pharmaceuticals, if you are patient, if you understand the model, if you hire the right people and be prepared, sometimes these apparent contradictory and crazy reports on magazines clearly explain our way to do business. You mentioned Canadian way. I mentioned Brazilian way. That is translated by jeitinho. This is not good in sometimes, but sometimes we have creative ideas enough to provide unthinkable and sounding solutions. This is nothing more than exposed in previous slides and articles in The Economist. Economy in some years presented 5 to 7% growth. Now is 1.8. Inflation target was 4.5, but this year will probably achieve 6.5 or even more. But for next year, 2015, right in the middle again, 3% economic growth, 5% inflation. Our democracy is young but stable. Legal system is working. Congress, we have in our Congress more than 30 political parties. This is democracy. We have free press, and 4 presidents were already elected by direct vote, and we will have general elections in October. Therefore, our authorities are clearly conscious about the importance of removing some of these complexities, like taxes. Pharmaceutical products, obviously we have exemptions, but in general, pharmaceutical products pay 32, 35% of taxes. Veterinarian products doesn't pay any tax. Diamond pay 10%. Therefore, it's incredible that if you are a dog, you have more respect than if you are a man because of regarding taxes. Labor costs are a very difficult point for small companies that are interested to come. Therefore, it's very important to find a model working with licensing, distributors, and other systems, because or sometimes orphan drugs, they have a very small structure. Therefore, in this case, it's possible to establish and hiring professionals. This is specific for pharmaceutical business. I think not only Brazil, but worldwide. During many years, orphan drugs were considered apart, especially in a country like Brazil, where we still have problems with neglected diseases. Therefore, in budget constraints, it's normal that health authorities would consider why to include these drugs that are treating 600 people, 700 people. I have to treat millions of people that suffer from dengue, malaria, and so on. We try to surpass this debate in order to see that orphan drugs are so important as neglected diseases. And it's important that orphan drugs companies that are interested to come to be part of solution, trying to solve this and being cooperative with authorities in order to include their programs in reimbursement formulary. By the way, the only rare disease that is regularly treated in Brazil with a protocol and with reimbursed is Gaucher disease. But 100% of Gaucher patients identified in Brazil are treated. But all the other rare diseases are treated just through lawsuits. Next. We discussed a lot about Brazil costs. The way I'm trying to conduct this is not to generate uncertainties or ideas not coming, but yes, come. But understand the country, understand the regulatory system, understand the way Anvisa, our regulatory agents, acts, and establish regulatory rules. Be part of solution to solve high costs involved in treatment with orphan drugs. It's important to have strong and deep evaluation, preparation. Successful startups recently installed spend this time analyzing the market, 1 to 2 years. This is important. Be ready after analyzing and knowing the country specificities. I am involved on another startup now. One of my clients is Orphan Europe, that is part of Recordati Group, and they are doing the same according to my recommendation. My idea here is that you will not be caught by surprise when you are already in Brazil. On the opposite, see the challenges and ways to surpass. Companies that adopted this important measure are certainly very happy with business in my country. Here, the people that are there and are managing the business. I roughly estimate that even with just lawsuits, we have a market, pharmaceutical orphan drugs market, around $500 to $700 million, maybe even more, just with the lawsuits. Therefore, we are just more regulated. We are more regulated than Anglo-Saxonian countries, more regulated than European countries, and this is important. You have to understand. Be ready for strong emotions. The market is not for people that are nervous and are not flexible enough to understand our specificities. The reality. Everything I said was in preparation for this slide. Plenty of opportunities. Pharmaceutical business is robust, much better than general economy. Economy is increasing 1.83%. Pharmaceutical business in general is increasing 8 to 9%. Some segments more than this, and orphan drugs even more. Therefore, we have ways to surpass these barriers. The fact that Brazilian economic growth was based on consumption in the past years allowed people in C and D classes to have access to health and therapeutical treatments. This is a good opportunity for your business. These numbers, 8 to 9% and 16% in local currency, are in many statistics, but some segments, orphan drugs among them, are experiencing, as I said, double-digit growth. And practically all big orphan drug pharmas are now with affiliates in Brazil and others are coming. Other aspect, positive, is that other multinationals, as mentioned, that never invested on this segment, are now looking for opportunities on sector. Sanofi, Pfizer. By the way, regarding Sanofi, when you work for many years like myself in Brazilian market, it's impossible that you didn't work for a company that is now part of Sanofi, because they acquired so many companies. I worked for two, Merrill Dow and Genzyme. Another important number, we have more or less 13 million of Brazilians that suffer from a certain type of rare disease. Okay, 13 million is the same number as diabetics in Brazil. And we have just 6, 7 companies or 7, 10 treatments. Therefore, plenty of opportunities. I started working with orphan drugs and rare disease 80 years ago. There is no way of not being optimistic about that point. Just at that point in time, and continue as I mentioned, Gaucher disease was regularly provided to patients. At that point in time, there were no agencies for including drugs in reimbursement system. Orphan drugs patients were considered probably in worst place, as according to health authorities with poor resources, they could not use this to treat dozens of patients in a country still with problems in basic health, high incidence of neglected disease, etc. Patients' association at that point in time were embryonic, poorly organized, generally organized by patients themselves or parents or relatives of them, like happened, but without lack of knowledge about organization, how to fight for their rights. Now it's different. Patients' associations are organized and improve knowledge about legal aspects, regulatory rules. They are using public relations tools. A new agency for ATH was created, Conitec. Some of orphan drugs companies established positive dialogue based on support to neglected disease. Genzyme did this when I was general manager of this company. Technology transference, price reevaluation. Prices are under control in Brazil. And therefore, you have to be creative, proposing things that could surpass these barriers. This is a topic I would like to emphasize. Prejudice exists in the past from both parts, health government authorities and pharmaceutical companies. But now, things are improving. The dialogue of Interpharma and Minister of Health and Anvisa is improving better and better. We have new regulations that I'll explain later on. Therefore, things are going in right track. All these measures in slide 10 reinforce my optimism. We have a new rare disease regulation that was established August last year. It's an important aspect. As I mentioned, 8 years ago, we had nothing. It was a black hole. Nothing. Gaucher was included. Others continue depending on lawsuits, but much more flexibility from judges to guarantee access. This regulation is not including the treatment, but better diagnostic centers, medical education, psychological support. Treatments will follow. There is no doubt about this. A great example we have is that in spite of the lawsuits will continue during many years, probably for 5 years, but we have some things that demonstrate that Brazil is always in the middle, is always creating opportunities. This resolution 8 is an intermediate solution because this resolution allowed companies that products are not registered in Brazil to be bought by private and public hospitals and NGOs like Patients Association without the need of lawsuits. They cannot sell. Obviously, they have to treat patients, but it's very important that it's not an action, a legal action from a patient specifically, but in fact, a regulation that allows, if drug is registered in FDA or EMA, that these hospitals can acquire the product. This is promising. Recently, 3 products of this company, I am consultant, included these products. And these products are not registered in Brazil for the moment, because we have a long way to register a company in Brazil. As we had in previous slides, you don't have to have a plant. Fortunately, you don't have to establish a plant in Brazil. That is terrible for orphan drugs. But you have to put your own quality control and your own warehouse before registering products. This is a topic that is part of costly ticket. But important to point out that this model is not ideal. It's not ideal, but as I mentioned, patients are improving their access. Patients' organization is present here, Regina Prospero, that is part of the National Council of Health. Rare diseases are in order of the day. Therefore, we need to pursue better clinical protocols. We need to establish correct way of having drugs included, register the drug in Brazil. Don't try to use the system of non-registered drugs forever because of high prices or things like that. It's important to cooperate with authorities. Obviously, during the period of establishing the company, you need to sell through lawsuits because patients will go to your drugs, they know your drugs, but assume the compromise to register the drugs in the country. Don't use this model forever. But the model will be surpassed with cooperation involving all stakeholders, health authorities, KOLs, industry, and main reason for them is the reason for existence of our structures, the patients and their associations. Therefore, I expect you come to my country, invest on my country. You need to understand the costs, but the opportunities are surpassing by far the risks involved. Not come just for World Cup or for Olympics. Bring your products to Brazil. We are ready to receive, and our patients too. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.